It was May 1996, and John was climbing Mount Everest, chasing the dream of his life. He had trained for months, eagerly awaiting this moment. But as he approached the summit, he realized that this climb was not just a physical challenge, but also a psychological battle. All around him was the blinding whiteness of snow and the howling of the wind. He was climbing with his team, but a strange unease had settled in among them. The weather was getting worse, and the oxygen levels were dropping. They had to reach the summit, but everyone wondered, could they make it back down? They set up camp for the night as they pitched their tents. A shiver ran down John's spine. The cold of the mountain penetrated his bones, and the wind's howl sounded like something was watching them. His friend Mike came over and quietly said, "Something feels off tonight." John knew exactly what Mike meant, but he brushed it off. "It's just the altitude and exhaustion. Let's get some rest." In the middle of the night, a strange rustling sound came from outside the tent. John woke up with a start. Was it just the wind or an animal? But animals were almost impossible at this altitude on Everest. Curiosity got the better of him, and he stepped outside. But all he saw was the endless white snow and emptiness. For a split second, he felt like a shadow had been watching him from the corner of his eye. He quickly went back to the tent. The next morning, the whole team was on edge. Mike mentioned he had nightmares throughout the night. "I found myself trapped in a shadow," he said. "It wasn't human, but it looked like us. It had no face, only eyes. It just stared at me, but it didn't speak. It just stood there, watching." As the day wore on, the climb became more difficult, but they were so close to the summit. The team leader insisted they push on, but John felt something deep inside him whispering that they should stop. That strange feeling gnawed at his mind, the same image playing over and over, being lost among shadows in a white void. When they finally reached the summit, he expected to feel triumphant, but instead he only felt a deep dread. It was cold, silent, and eerie. Some of the group immediately started heading back, but John and Mike lingered a little longer. Then suddenly a massive cloud of fog began rolling down from the peak. The fog enveloped them quickly, and John saw a dark figure appear in the sky. The figure looked human, but wasn't quite right. Its form was a shadowy blur. "Run!" Mike screamed, but his legs wouldn't move. The fog thickened, and the figure vanished into it. But John knew in that moment it would return. Before he knew what was happening, Mike collapsed to the ground. His face was covered in snow, and he was struggling to breathe. John tried to lift him, but Mike's eyes were wide with terror, staring at something invisible. "We need to get out of here now," John yelled in panic. The fog was spreading around them fast. John let go of Mike and tried to run back, but with every step, it felt like the snow was pulling him deeper, trapping him in a labyrinth. Shadows began to appear around him. Were they real, or was his mind playing tricks on him? Footsteps. But how could there be footsteps in this desolate place? He stopped for a moment. The fog had become so thick he couldn't see anything. His heart was racing, his mind spinning. Even breathing had become difficult. And then, out of the fog, a hand appeared, cold, bony fingers. The hand rested on John's shoulder, and he felt ice run through his entire body. He was terrified to turn around, but there was no other choice. Slowly, he turned, and there it was, the dark figure again. Faceless, eyeless, but more real than anything around him. John tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure stood silently, staring at him. And in that moment, John knew he would never leave this mountain.